still the world keeps turning. We are one heart, one soul, one dream we share together. We are heart apart. We are one heart. We're looking for answers. We are one soul, and we're finding our way through the dark. One dream we share together. We are all a part. Let me hear you say, we are all a part. Oh, you know, we are all a part of one heart. Said we're all in this thing together. One soul, and we're living the same dream. One heart, you know we're all in this thing together. We are heart apart. One heart, one dream, and we're dreaming the same dream. One heart, one mind, one soul, one heart. We are heart apart. One heart, one mind, one soul, and we're living the same dream. One heart, you know we're in this together. We are all a part of one heart.
Oh, one heart. And speaking of one heart, it's my honor and pleasure to introduce our special guest this morning. It's almost like I already know her. Patricia Albere is at ground zero of an evolutionary stream of spiritual awakening, one in which we learn to go beyond individual psychology, solo enlightenment, and personal transformation into a new space of mutual awakening or interbeing or We-Mysticism. Patricia is the founder and director of the Evolutionary Collective and an internationally known contemporary spiritual teacher, and also the best-selling author of Evolutionary Relationships, Unleashing the Power of Mutual Awakening. She is internationally recognized by her peers as an innovator and pioneer working on the leading edge of what is emerging in we space, or intersubjective awakening. Her unique discovery of the essential components that create an awakened we space is transforming our understanding of what is possible in the space between us. Patricia has worked with over 200,000 people in groups in the last 40 years. Her mastery of transformative teacher is now innovating a new field of intersubjective awakening and post-personal development. So it's my honor and pleasure to have Patricia Albere. So please give her a warm Spiritual Life Center welcoming.
Okay. Now I'm going to have to explain what that means. questions, right? Okay, God, I'm moved by your community. It's just, wow. I mean, there's so much generosity. That's what's the loudest. I mean, there's love, but there's a lot of just goodness and generosity that you can just feel coming through everyone. It's really beautiful. And your music is insanely wonderful. God, I mean, really, oh my God. Okay, so let me just explain one of those terms which will sort of guide us into what I'm going to be speaking about, which is intersubjective awakening. Like, what does that mean? We-Mysticism, that's the topic. So intersubjective, just to make it really clear, is a lot of the work that we've done and a lot of what was initiated 2,000 to 3,000 years ago. 2,000 to 3,000 years ago is when religion started. So all the religions began right around that time. And at that time, you have to think, there was maybe a couple of million people on the earth. And people were living very, like with the land, but almost herd-like. If you can imagine, human beings were not like us then. I don't know if that's good or bad, but, they weren't. There was no sense of real individuality. You were just trying to survive. There were some maybe rituals that they had, sort of. There were some things. But basically, about 2,000 to 3,000 years ago, what evolution brought into the world was the possibility that beyond surviving, you could actually have a personal relationship with the divine. So individual awakening, personal enlightenment, kind of started. And that being able to move beyond our violence, our just basic, having to just, kill animals and pick fruit or whatever it was that people were doing. You have to really it was really different then. Really, really different. Not just like us camping. Okay? It's not like that. So the possibility that you could have, that there was something beyond just this earth, and there was a relationship that you could begin to create was huge. And so the ability to begin to move past our instincts, some of the core instincts of violence or lust or whatever was there, was a very, very big learning curve for humanity. And a lot of people have not progressed that far, as we know. But it began, and all the sense of individuation that we have had, that we take for granted, we are at the peak of individuation. So that we can think for ourselves, that you have children that are going, well, I don't know if I feel that's really going to be the right thing for me. I mean, do you really think people even a couple of hundred years ago? No, you just worked on the farm, or you did whatever you needed to do. It wasn't like, well, what's my personal calling here? I mean, it just didn't exist that way. So we have come so far. Now Pandora knows what you want to hear. I mean, you're insulted if you go to have coffee and they don't have 6 different kinds of liquid, dairy type or non-dairy liquid. I mean, we're so individuated. And I know I'm being funny, but I'm also being very real about it. I mean, I kind of want you to feel into the peak. We have 7.5 billion people. And in the last few thousand years, we have accomplished an enormous amount in knowing who we are and knowing, what love is, at least, and whether we practice it or not. We're very developed, and we've developed science and technology, and we have the internet, and I mean, we've done a lot. Now, so here's the good news. There's always good news when you're at church, right? Yes. Okay, here's the good news. So the good news is that there is a vision of the future that is different than, distinct from the last 2,000 or 3,000 years. So there are Teilhard de Chardin, there are different teachers who have looked into the future and seen there's something different. It isn't just that we keep going. and working on ourselves and dealing with our own relationship to the divine. Even the saintliness, like in this 2,000 or 3,000 years, the best you can be is a saint. So if I'm, dealing with a friend, and they're endlessly being very, very difficult, what I need to do is to keep loving them and forgiving them and, creating space for them. And, I get to be a saint, but there's nothing happening between us. There's no place where it's kind of like, well, what about us together? What about a whole new possibility together? Not just you do your thing, I'll do mine, and I'll try to love you. I'll try to be good about it. It's, we've learned for these thousands of years, like, how do we deal with it all ourselves? And it doesn't mean that we're not in community and that we're not loving and supporting each other, but we're not necessarily in a whole other conversation of how do we activate this? How do we deepen this? What kind of integrity? Where do we connect from? Do we connect from our differences? Or do we go someplace where there aren't any? Now, you can know there's no difference, and I can know, but I'm still separate knowing. So intersubjective, to go back to what I started with, intersubjective is, subjective is when you've been working on yourself, how you feel, you close your eyes, you go into your subjective world, and you sense into your feelings, your emotions, your thoughts, your connection. That's subjective. So if I ask you, what are you experiencing, you would go inside, and hopefully you'd be able to tell me. And you might have become, I'm sure in this church, you've learned how to be sensitive. It isn't just like, what are you experiencing? You're kind of like, I don't know. You know. You can tune in. You can listen to your intuition. You can hear things. You can sense things. That's subjective. Intersubjective is together. It isn't me sharing my subjective experience with you and you sharing your subjective experience with me and I'm empathetically listening. Because if I'm empathetically listening, am I separate or am I one with him? Separate. So we've been taught how to literally maintain separation in a funny way. Because your subjective and my subjective are in two different worlds. In fact, if you tell me what I'm experiencing, I'm going to get mad at you. How do you know what I'm experiencing, right? It's like, no. So intersubjective is that there's a way to break that barrier where literally we go into the space together and we're actually experiencing being in the same space. So it's almost like an inner space that's outer together. Does that make any sense? So it's not outer, it's like an inner world that we're both in, and we're kind of looking around going, do you see that? And I'm going, yeah. And we are one. And it's not a theory. You actually experience being one there. Does that make sense? So as far as like where we're headed, the practice of finding out how to get inside together, how to be inside that level of connection, being in reality together instead of I'm in my reality and you're in yours, and hopefully we can get along. We literally start to find that we can be inside and actually experience the oneness for real. Does that make sense? So that's intersubjective. So We-Mysticism. So now we're going to take it a little further. And then we'll do a brief experience together. You seem to be a very interactive group. Okay. So we'll do something. So We-Mysticism. So first of all, strangely enough, I've been working and teaching people since I was 18, and I'm way far away from 18 at this stage of my life. And what I only realized about 7 years ago was I asked a friend who was very spiritually, done a lot of meditation and was a pretty awake guy. And I said, we were talking about mysticism, and then I said, well, define mystic for me. Because you know how you sort of think you know what it is? I bet if I asked anybody here, like, what's really a mystic? A lot of you wouldn't know. like the definition of a mystic. So he defined it, and I realized that I was a mystic. I had no idea. I would never have termed myself that. So we're going to find out if you're a mystic. Okay, so we'll go over it. So a philosopher, how do they know reality? So some of you are philosophers. How do you go about knowing reality if you're a philosopher? Through ideas and through thinking, and then hopefully higher mind. Okay? So a mystic does not approach things that way. There are also people that, Evelyn Underhill, who was a friend of William James, who wrote about religion, and she was a pretty awesome woman. She basically she said there's mysticism, and then she called it magic. And I haven't found a better word for it. Magic isn't a good word, but it's the one she used, so I will use that. It doesn't really mean magic the way that we think. So magic is when you want to go into a deeper reality, you want to go into the deeper cause of things, the metaphysical world of where the divine is, where God is, and you want to learn how it works. What are the laws? How does it work so that then you can bring those things back and use those things in your life to create what you want or to heal people or to do whatever, okay? So that's magic. So magic is wanting to understand the deeper realm so that you can use those laws and principles for whatever it is that you've decided that you want to do. America is very good at magic. So America, if you're online, there are a lot of things that teach you how to use the laws and the principles and the various things in order to make things work in certain ways. And there's nothing wrong with that at all. But a mystic is different. So a mystic is someone who all they really want is they want to be close to the divine. It's more of a lover. Like, you don't have to be a lover to be a magician. You don't have to be vulnerable to be a magician. You can, figure it out and get it to work and not kind of risk yourself in that way. Mystics are lovers. So they kind of, it's just take me. There's a sense of, I just want to be taken. I want to be taken over. I want to become one. I want to be a vessel for. I want to dissolve. I want to be danced. I don't want to learn the best ways to dance. I want to be danced. And a mystic is someone who, truthfully, they end up being very useful in the world, but they kind of don't care. Do you know what I mean? It's really a love affair. It's really, let me be used in some way. And you know that your will and your decisions are not better than how you will be used. The way a mystic also falls in love with God and with the divine is that you know you're going to get taken apart. So whatever is in the way of you and love, you and being wholly surrendered, they call it kenosis. Kenosis is a quality where you're getting dissolved, not more together. Now, the great thing is that as a mystic, your deepest core is what is revealed. And you find out that the beauty and the depth of what is there is so exquisite that you wouldn't trade it for reconstituting your ego. As charming as it may have been, as talented as it may have been, you just don't care. It's like there's a place that is so at the core that in that relationship with the divine, that is all you want. And I say that our way forward, so we have a lot in this last 2,000 or 3,000 years where we have been learning things and making things and figuring out how it works and developing all kinds of practices and different stuff. There's a place where if we are truly going to be one, as the song was singing, how do you know what we should do? How do I know? We need to be orchestrated. And to be orchestrated, we need to be mystics. And we need to be inside that mysticism together. Does that make sense? And it's not possible. It's not like, oh, that sounds wonderful, and then you go back to your life. It's actually, in the last 11 years, I've been working with some groups of people fairly intensively, not on themselves. Like, you know, usually you go to a group and you work on yourself. We don't work on people. Crazy, right? I know. She's looking at me like, what? What do you do? So, so what we do is we keep going into that place of connection from the core of the core. The kenosis keeps happening. And people's lives are transformed. And as you know, you have to give up your life to have your life. Right? There's a better quote that I'm sure you know how to say. But that's basically, you have to die in order to live. Well, it's true. As you dissolve, what happens is we've called it issuelessness. Right? I mean, we actually worked on it for one of the, the group, the more intensive group. We realized that we were actually at a place as a group to actually work on issuelessness, not on our issues. How's that for a concept? It was like, really? Is that possible? Because it looks like all you do is work on your issues forever. How uninspiring is that? I mean, does that get you up in the morning and go, wow, I can't wait to work on my issues today? I want to do that for at least another 30 years. So this future I'm pointing to, this inner subjective awakening, this we-mysticism, is the possibility of, as we learn how to actually come in together, which is absolutely possible. I'm going to teach people this afternoon, at least one of the practices that take you there. But as we really do this, what starts to happen is you become more selfless. The more selfish you are, a selfless human being who doesn't have all this stuff is not going to have as many problems. Have you ever noticed that? How many people have noticed that the more in service you are, the less problems you have? When it's not all about you, it kind of like things shut up and the world begins to come in and support you. And we are just so busy with ourselves, usually. So there is a different place to go. So we want to do, did I go way over? Really? I'm okay? All right. Okay, so let's just do this one thing. All right, if everybody stands up and turn to one person and face them, okay? And just close your eyes. When you get there, close your eyes so I can kind of tell you how I want you to do this. Raise your hand if you don't have a person. Or you don't have to do this if you don't want a person. Okay. Shh, so don't talk. So just have your eyes closed. Okay, so now the first moment, open your eyes and just be with your partner. So just look them in the eye and just kind of be with them however it shows up. Just kind of let them be there, you be there. And see if you can notice the place of connection and notice the place of separation. Okay? There's a place of connection, a place of, yeah, they're over there, I'm over here. All right, now close your eyes again. Okay, now where I want you to go inside is there's a place that I call your origination point. And the origination point is this, it's like the opening, like the space that you come into the world from. It's a kind of nothing that you are that's very particularly you. So it's not your body, it's not your feelings or thoughts particularly. It's kind of like this space that when someone sees you there, you know they see you. Okay? So I'm going to ask you to be generous enough to open your eyes and just allow yourself to connect from there. And see them. See if you can really see who's really over there. And don't be shy, go a little further. It's a little weird, but it's like you're going beyond the normal space of separation. And let them in. It may feel really intimate. It's okay. We're actually... Okay, and then close your eyes. And just let yourself absorb that. And keep feeling them, even with your eyes closed. Okay, and then open your eyes up just one more time. And just allow that to happen again. From core to core. Like each person is really a whole world. Okay, then thank your partner and sit down. Okay, I'm going to read one thing and then. So Thomas Merton, thank you for doing that. Thomas Merton said, "At the center of our being is a point of nothingness that is untouched by sin and by illusion, a point of pure truth, a point or spark which belongs entirely to God, which is never at our disposal, from which God disposes our lives, which is inaccessible to the fantasies of our mind or the brutalities of our own will. It is like a pure diamond, blazing with the invisible light of heaven. It is in everybody. And if we could see it, we would see these billions of points of light coming together in the face and blaze of a sun that would make all darkness and cruelty of life vanish completely," which is a good way of pointing to that. So this afternoon, you'll tell them, but I'm going to be doing, I get to have an hour and a half. I need more time with you. And so if you are free, please come, and we will actually be doing deeper practices. It won't be me talking much. It'll be actually practicing and learning how to go into that intersubjective place. And it is amazing when you spend a little bit of time there, how easy and how far we go, because existence wants this now. We're headed towards 10 billion people in 2050. You know, evolution is interested that we awaken in this way at this point. So, you know, whoever is willing to volunteer to awaken into shared unity, God seems to be making it really easy on us. Okay? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Uh-oh.
Thank you, Patricia. And there'll be more of that. You can go deeper into what you just described. And she'll be here in this room at 12 o'clock.
Oh my God.
So, get a little something to eat, come back, and this is, I think, some of the most profound work that I think is being done and so needed in our world today. So we're glad that you're doing this, and we have the opportunity to share what you have provided for us to help, really create the new earth that the Spirit is calling for each and every one of us. We're at that time of the service that, like I said, some people consider their favorite. The opportunity to give. There's something when we give out, how much we keep when we do it. And so in this awareness, I invite you to symbolically take your tithes, your gifts, your love offering, and know that you're in a flow of circulation that reminds us that we can never outgive the presence and the power and the love of God. And we have an opportunity to really create that unity of consciousness in this community and ultimately in our world, because we are on the cutting edge of that possibility. So with that awareness, I invite you to join in and sing an offertory blessing together as it comes up on the screen. Divine love, as me, blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, and all that I circulate. Thank you, God.
Love, I get so lost sometimes. Days pass and this emptiness fills my heart.
When I want to run away,
I drive off in my car.
but whichever way I go,
I come back to the place you are. And all of my instincts, they return. And the grand facade so soon will burn. Without a noise, without my pride, I reach out from the inside.
In your eyes, the light, the heat, I am complete. I see the doorway of 1,000 churches,
The resolution
of all the fruitless searches.
Oh, see the light and the heat.
Oh, I want to be that complete. I want to touch your light in the heat I see in your eyes. Love, I don't like to see so much pain, so much wasted, and this moment keeps slipping away. I get so tired working so hard for our survival. I look to the time with you to keep me awake and alive. And all my instincts, they return. And the grand facade so soon will burn. Without a noise, without my pride, I reach out from the inside. Oh, in your eyes, your eyes, I am complete. Your
I
eyes,
see the doorway
your
of 1,000 churches. The resolution
of all the fruitless searches.
Oh, see the light and the heat.
Oh, I want to be that complete. I want to touch the light in the heat I see in your eyes. Touch your light in the heat I see in your eyes. Yeah.
Well, thank you all so much. And you'll remember to check out Patricia at 12. And behind that wall, there's some great exhibits. I checked out a lot of them yesterday. And we blessed the tithes, the offerings, and those who collected it. And we bless you for being here as we move into this unity of consciousness that was so well presented by Patricia. So with that, let us join together and sing our peace song.
There be peace on earth and
We indeed let it begin with me. And to deepen those words, let us join in and say our prayer for protection. The light